All right, we're going to Kimberly Herman now. She is the Southeastern Legal Foundation General Counsel. She is part of the legal group that filed the lawsuit to get Joe Biden's pseudonym emails. Now, if you're taking this from the very beginning, I'm going to ask her to tell us what the pseudonym emails and how common those are, et cetera, et cetera. Hi, Kimberly. How are you?
I'm doing great. Thanks for having me on.
You bet. Okay, so we heard about Joe Biden using a pseudonym, in fact, several pseudonyms when he was the vice president. And we got this because of some of the emails on Hunter Biden's laptop, correct?
That's correct. We first learned about these in the summer of 2021 when Hunter Biden's laptop was exposed and authenticated, and John Solomon, New York Post, Daily Mail, lots of people covered these. And we were really interested in them because why would a vice president need to use an alias email address and forward government information to his son and his son's business partners? And so we started asking the National Archives for the records all the way back in 2021.
So, and they just released them, so they're quick.
They have actually still not released them. When we filed that initial request, they came back and said, whoa, we can't release any of Joe Biden's vice president records till 2022. Come back then. So we waited. We came back then. And we've been waiting for 14 months. They have acknowledged that about 5,400 of these potentially exist.
Wow, what story was I reading today, or maybe a couple of days ago, that I thought 1,000 existed and 800 had just been released? None of them have been released, and there's 5,400 of them?
Yeah, so none of these alias ones have been released. I believe that our friends over, I believe at America First Legal, have also submitted some FOIA requests, and that they have been getting some emails, but that they're not necessarily the pseudonym emails, right?
Okay.
He didn't always use the pseudonym. He just used it sometimes.
Do you know how common it is for a president or vice president to have pseudonym emails?
I mean, others have come out where they've said, we know about we obviously know about Hillary Clinton's secret server. That was an entire server. There have been other stories out there that past presidents have used them. Use them. I don't think that you should be using them. I think that there's massive legal implications. But whether you use them or not, these emails are still government records. He was still the vice president talking about government information and forwarding that on to people. That makes it a government record. It makes it subject to the Freedom of Information Act, which means that anyone in the public can request that these records get released.
Now, we don't know what's in the pseudonym emails. We're hearing now that we are seeing things from the White House, coming out from the White House, that Joe Biden was involved with his son's firm. They were getting invitations to things. They were actually in communication on, state dinners, et cetera, and played a role in those, which I think is extremely uncommon, I would imagine. But the pseudonym, you think that these are even more damning, possibly, because...
Yeah, I mean, why else would you use a pseudonym, right? And so we've been sending FOIA requests and trying to release as many documents to the public as we can about Joe Biden and Hunter Biden and Burisma and the other things that happened in Ukraine for, 3-4 years now. And we've seen in a lot of those records with official email addresses that those meetings happened. We've put them out on our website. John Solomon's put them out. He's done a lot of those FOIA requests that we've litigated. And so those are damning enough. Why else would you use a pseudonym if you're not doing something nefarious? Now, maybe they'll come out and we will all learn that there's nothing important in them. Maybe they were personal communications.
5,400 of them?
The laptop, I highly, highly doubt it.
Right.
Yeah. I mean, I highly doubt it. I can't speculate to what's in them until we see them, but something just doesn't quite smell right.
Right. And we know that because of another email, right? We got the pseudonym we found out that he was emailing in pseudonym because of the Hunter Biden laptop. We saw Robin L. Peters or something like that, Robert L. Peters. And do we know that he did communicate with the head of Ukraine under a pseudonym? He was doing some official business in Ukraine, we think. He was reaching out to the president or somebody like that, right? I am sorry, I have not followed this story.
Yeah, there are some indications to that, and there are various emails out there floating around. We at SLS have not personally authenticated any of them, but there are stories out there, and there are emails that we've seen out there where there are these types of communications happening. And, through the other FOIA work that we've done over the last several years, we have seen evidence of those meetings. We have exposed very key records. One of them was a memo that came out just a few weeks ago where they're talking about setting up these meetings. And so there's really no question that Hunter Biden and Devin Archer and his other business partners were getting access to top State Department officials to talk about their business dealings. What influence it had on that, I'll leave that to the congressional investigations, and we'll leave that to the people who can actually do something about that, right? Our goal here is to just really try to help restore some level of government integrity. Either we have a FOIA or we don't. Produce the records. How
unusual is this to be blocked with a FOIA like this for something that is emails?
So I wish I could say that it's unusual. It has taken us 7 years to get records from some government agencies in the past. This is a fundamental problem that we have in our country, right? We have those that are elected into office and they preach transparency and they say we're going to show you everything. And then it's just stonewall by all of the federal agencies. And so this is a massive problem. What is it that they have to hide? We're still litigating lawsuits that we had against the DOJ and the FBI to try to uncover what was actually happening with Russiagate, right? Here we are all these years later. We won't stop until we can expose the truth, because the only way that we'll have a republic, the only way that we can rebuild this republic is by truth and transparency.
So how is it that, we can change this? How do we change this?
We just have to try to change the culture, and we have to let the federal government know, we as Americans have to let them know that we are not going away. We know that we have the right to these records, and we will ask for them, and we will continue to ask for them. Fortunately, we have the courts. And so now we've had to turn to the courts. It's time intensive. It's resource intensive. It means that, we have to continue to wait. But there is a way to get resolution. And fortunately, we have a judiciary, a strong federal judiciary. Thank you, President Trump, that we can then turn to.
So they now have, if I'm not mistaken, the National Archives and Records has 30 days from here to respond?
Yes. Yep. They've got 30 days from when they are served the complaint to respond. We're really hopeful that they'll just come to the table and that they'll come to us and say, we know we kept putting you off. We're going to review the records. We're going to produce them, and that we don't have to continue to litigate it in court. If they really fight hard in court to not turn these records over in a timely manner, that is a signal in and of itself, in my opinion, that there's definitely something in them that somebody does not want the American public to see.
So it would be illegal for the White House to interfere with the archives and records, right? You can't have phone calls going back and forth from, the Biden White House saying, no, keep these. They're supposed to just judge it coldly and release what they have to release. And if there is a national secret in there, then they can classify it. But there should be no political play in anything like this. Should there?
There really shouldn't be. There are some exceptions for classified information.
Yes.
And, Joe Biden could then determine that he would declassify them potentially. And so there's obviously a process for that, as you mentioned. But there should not be communications going back and forth. One thing that will be very interesting after all of this is to FOIA any communications about our FOIA.
Mm-hmm.
That's something that's always really interesting to do, because sometimes those communications do happen. And again, we just have to continue to fight to expose all of this, because hopefully one day politicians will wake up and say, you know what, they mean business. I really need to be transparent now.
This is an organization, if you don't know the Southeastern Legal Foundation, you should. It is slfliberty.org. If you are somebody who has resources and you're tired of all of this, put your money where people are actually doing things to expose the truth, and then putting those in the hands of people who can enforce the truth and clean up all the bad things. And that is exactly what Southeastern Legal Foundation does. Go to slfliberty.org. That's slfliberty.org. General Counsel Kimberly Herman. Kimberly, thank you for everything that you're doing. God bless you.
Thank you.